I'm an actor. I'm also a paralegal. I think I probably lost at least 10K on crypto. Sure. My name is Anna Brosny. I'm in New York City, 35 years old.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I kind of do a bit of everything. I'm an actor. I'm also a paralegal and yeah, kind of a freelancer. I do some like odd gigs here and there.
Great. So you're a paralegal and a commercial actor. How long have you been doing those?
I mean, I've been acting a long time, like more than 10 years, and then being a paralegal about 7, 8 years now. So a pretty long time.
Did you go to college?
I did, yeah.
And what did you study in college?
I did an undergrad in politics and economics and actually graduated in Canada and then moved to New York after.
Are you born and raised in Canada, or you went to school in Canada?
Went to school in Canada. Yeah.
Awesome. What brought you to Canada?
My mom's Canadian, so that's kind of how I ended up there. But I grew up in California.
What are your future career goals?
I did the big law thing, which was a very good high salary kind of position. But honestly, it really burnt me out as making well over 6 figures, working crazy overtime. But I felt like it was taking a toll on my health. So I took a step back and recently decided to become a freelancer like 5 months ago. So yeah, I think right now, as far as things are concerned, I think I'm pretty comfortable. Obviously, I'd like to make more income in the long run, but for now, I think where I'm at is kind of what I expected.
And what pushed you to move into a freelancer role a few months ago? Like what was that trigger there?
I think it was just as having just a lot of health issues related to my last job, and I kind of looked at the situation and was like, okay, yes, this pays a crazy amount, but I don't see my friends, don't see my family. I had no life. Like I didn't have time to go to the gym or like do anything normal. So
And,
yeah,
what type of law were you doing?
funny enough, structured finance, but it was more on like, macro level. So
Did it scare you at all? I guess leaving this great salary. How much were you making at the previous job? You said you're in 6 figures.
yeah. Like the base was about 100K, but then with overtime, I was making, I don't even know, probably closer to 150
Yeah.
or something. It was a lot of overtime.
And did it scare you leaving that job and moving towards becoming a freelancer without that guaranteed paycheck every single month?
Yeah, it definitely did, but I really felt like my health was on the line and yeah. So it really became an issue of like, I knew I couldn't do it in the long run anymore. So I kind of looked at the situation and said, well, I'd be better off risking being a freelancer and see where that takes me. And also, like, obviously, if I ever wanted to, I'm sure I could go back to a corporate role if I really, really wanted to. So,
You can always go back to it. Was
yeah.
there any thoughts financially when you're making that decision? Like, did you save up a lot of money before you quit your job to make sure that, hey, I can float this being a freelancer for a few months? Or what was your thought process there?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I did save. I was mapping it out. I wanted to make sure I had enough for like a year where I would be comfortable, at least being able to pay my rent and stuff without, feeling overwhelmed or like if I couldn't find like a client or something by myself that I wouldn't be dying or of starvation or something crazy.
Nice. And so becoming a freelancer, what type of work are you doing now in the freelance world?
So I'd say like as a freelance paralegal, I'm doing a lot of kind of more like entertainment contracts, media contracts. Yeah, that type of work, which I actually really enjoy. And I feel like it's a lot more hands-on, so I really enjoy it.
A lot more hands-on, less stressful, and you can take on the number of clients that you want and not have to work yourself to death, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And also just like, yeah, being able to communicate a little bit easier with attorneys, it helps.
Well, let's dive into your childhood. You said you were born in California. What was your childhood like? Where in California did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up kind of in central California in the Valley. And yeah, I grew up in a pretty middle-class household. My dad worked. My mom was a homemaker. They got divorced in my early teens. And after that, through my teenage years, I kind of ended up living in poverty, actually, like in housing projects and things of that nature. And then when I moved to Canada, it was kind of a similar situation as living with my single mom. She didn't have much money. She also didn't really have any real career goals, which was problematic. So yeah, so I started working when I was like 15, basically, in restaurants.
So that must obviously been a dramatic shift growing up in California, middle class household, to then parents getting divorced and your mom not having a big career or having much money and living the projects. Were you living the projects in California, or was that when you moved to Canada?
In California. And then when I moved to Canada, she got a small place.
How did your parents approach money growing up? Prior to divorce, and then after the divorce?
My mom, she grew up in money. So her idea of money was that it's there to be spent. Like she really had no concept whatsoever of money. And she was very She liked like designer clothes and designer this, and she didn't really care how much it cost. It was for her, money was just like this liquid thing. My dad, he made decent money, but he never really spoke about money. He never really spoke about how he invested it or anything. I mean, I think his idea was that you have to work incredibly hard for money. And so that was kind of the narrative I was told as a kid, was that, you can't do anything that you love because it's not going to make money. Like I was always like, oh, I want to be an artist. And they were like, yeah, that's cute, but you can't do that. So that was kind of my upbringing.
You said your dad didn't talk much about money at all. Did your mom ever talk about money to you?
I mean, here and there, she's always complaining that she was broke. But I mean, I think that's because whatever money she had, she would just spend it in totally ridiculous ways.
What are some of those, I guess, ridiculous ways that you kind of saw her growing up spending money on?
Designer clothes, expensive cars. She'd always try and be like very flamboyant. So, like expensive makeup. Always like trying to impress her boyfriends and just spending money in what I thought was kind of like idiotic ways.
Did you think that at the time, or looking back on it now, kind of as you grew up, you think that, or like while you're going through your childhood, you kind of question some of these financial decisions your mom was making?
Yeah, I mean, I think by the time I was in my late teens, I mean, for sure by the time I was 17, 18, I was conscious of the fact that it seemed like what she was doing was a bad idea.
How do you think that shaped your current financial habits and your financial habits as you kind of started working at a young age and kind of going through college and now live in New York City?
I think growing up, I had to be very frugal and kind of creative with money. Like I didn't have money for designer clothes or anything like that. So like buying thrift clothes for $3 and then kind of cutting it up and making it my own was something I grew up doing. And it wasn't like something I was ashamed of. I was just like, well, this is what I've got, so let me work with it type thing. And so, yeah. And I think, obviously it was a shock moving to New York City. I was kind of lucky because I came on a artist visa. So like the first 2 years I was here, I didn't really have serious expenses to pay, which I thought was like a really great opportunity. And so that kind of helped me build a foundation for freelancing a little bit, which was helpful. But yeah, New York is insanely expensive. And I think, especially at the age I'm at, I'm often thinking like, oh, like how could I cut my expenses? And the obvious thing seems to be leaving New York City.
Yeah. What are some of the most important financial lessons you learned over the years from your parents, or just on your own, like mistakes that you've made?
Mistakes that I've made, I'd say I really wish that I didn't keep as much money liquid. Like I feel like I do invest here and there, but I'm just so cautious sometimes with investing. Like I feel like it's almost like gambling. So sometimes I wish I had a better grasp on where to put money. I feel like I'm pretty good at actually making it, but then it's like I wish I knew how to make my money make money for me. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does. We'll get to that in a few minutes, talk more about investing, talk about your thoughts and process there and what you're currently doing.
Okay.
But first, I want to kind of dive into living in New York City. It's obviously not cheap. Are you living in the city of New York?
Yeah, I got like a COVID deal.
Okay, I was going to ask, I mean, your rent, it looks like it's $1,800 a month.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think you can find that really anywhere else in New York City right now, unless do you have any roommates?
No, I don't.
So you have a steal of a place then, I guess, live in New York City.
Yeah, for the moment I do, for sure. That might change in a year, but right now it's a pretty good situation.
When does your lease end?
It ends, I signed like a pretty extensive lease. So yeah, I think it ends in July 2024. So I've got some time.
Okay, you got some time. And I guess to figure out, hey, this rent's going to go from $1,800 a month to $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever the average rent in New York City is these days. So
yeah, exactly.
How would you rate your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10?
Honestly, I'd say probably like a 5 or a 6. It's not like I'm going into debt, but I mean, I think because I'm kind of starting off, freelancing with no steady income, it has been pretty challenging. So in a sense, I wish I was making more, but then I'm like kind of happy that I'm not losing money. That makes sense. It's not like I'm...
Yeah, so looking at your current monthly expenses between, we got rent and home utilities, about $19.27 a month, auto and transport $30. I'm assuming that's your subway card.
Mm-hmm.
Their groceries $400 a month, eating out $430, entertainment $100, health and fitness $50, personal care $60, shopping $30, and travel $300. You're spending about $3,300 a month, just over that. Living in New York City, that seems quite frankly pretty good. keeping it relatively low on a lot of those different budget areas, especially kind of going. Did you cut your expenses when you started freelancing, or has your expenses kind of always been in this area?
No, I think I definitely cut back a lot when I started freelancing. Like I really evaluated my finances and I was like, okay, like new cell phone plan for $20, like new this for like whatever the cheapest thing is. So yeah, I definitely did cut back quite a bit.
And now we're kind of going to your income here. So income $4,000 a month. Is that all freelance income right now?
Correct. Yeah.
And is that accounting for taxes or not accounting for taxes?
That's accounting for taxes.
Accounting for taxes. Okay, awesome. Glad you're doing that to start off. I mean, you did law in the finance world, so know what you're doing there.
Hopefully.
Great. So you're in a spot, you're saving about $700 a month, which isn't a small amount of money, but it's not a large amount of money. It's kind of in the middle. Obviously, living in New York City, it's a good spot to be in because I know a lot of people move to New York City and they just pull from their savings continuously every single month. So that's great to see. Kind of after freelancing a few months, you're in a spot where you're saving money every single month and just need to continue to work on increasing your income.
Yeah.
What other assets do you have right now? Do you have any retirement accounts set up or cash savings, or what do your assets look like?
Yeah. So I do have savings. I have like kind of an emergency. I have like different savings accounts, which is weird. But yeah, I have like basically two savings. One is like for emergency medical, which is right now about 25,000 because I don't have any medical insurance as a freelancer. And then the other one is like, for rent in case anything catastrophic happened is about the same. So I have like probably about 50,000, like just liquid.
Nice. And you have investment accounts from your previous job or the last few years?
Yeah, I haven't really looked at them. I probably should, but yeah, I do from my old job.
And are those, would you ballpark range, where would you say those are roughly?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, if I had to take a guess, maybe might be like 15K or something in there.
Awesome. Well, so is that, I guess, in a 401k?
Yeah.
You have that 401k? Okay.
Yeah.
And is that kind of the extent of your investments? Is that retirement account probably on 15K in it?
Yeah. I mean, I've invested here and there in crypto. Like I probably have $5,000 worth of crypto investments that I try not to look at these days. Yeah. And I'd say like that's the extent of it.
So going back to your statement earlier, you feel like investing is gambling, and that probably has a lot to do with seeing the fluctuations in the crypto market, depending on when you bought in or sold or whatever it might be. Is that why you kind of feel that way, that or investing is gambling?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I would say like a lot of that definitely stems from crypto, but then like also just like watching my mom like erratically invest money when I was like a teenager, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, I lost it all." Like it just felt like every few months she came home from a casino or something. It was just always this catastrophic thing that she would do, and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
Gambling is not investing. So if she's losing money at the casino, there's a reason casinos are big and beautiful, and it's not because they lose money.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also, I guess, depending on what she was investing. What else was she investing? Was she doing single stocks, or do you know what to that extent what she was investing in?
I don't know. I know she had like a financial advisor at a bank, but it seemed like, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, maybe she was exaggerating how bad the losses were, but it seemed like every time she would talk about it, it was something catastrophic.
So when it comes to investing, what do you define investing as when it comes to like the stock market?
I mean,
or how would you go about investing in the stock market?
I mean, I feel like it's always good to kind of play it safe and like buy stocks like Apple or like, whatever, like big stocks there are Tesla. But I mean, other than that, like recently I haven't really looked at the stock market, so I really don't know what's good. But I mean, there's always trends. I feel like sometimes I follow like alert trends and stuff on stocks, but other than that, I don't really.
Are you familiar with index funds at all?
Not that much, no.
Yeah, so index funds, picture it kind of like as a basket of stocks. So instead of picking, hey, Facebook or picking Tesla or Apple and just putting your $1,000 into one of those stocks, take $1,000 and put it into an index fund. Maybe it's a S&P 500 index fund. It essentially will be a basket of the top 500 companies in America if it's an S&P 500 index fund. So it'll own a small portion of Apple, a small portion of Facebook, small portion of Google. That way you're not putting all your eggs in one basket in a single stock. Because if you put all your money in Tesla or you put all your money in Apple, granted right now Apple's doing well, it's near an all-time high. But on the other hand, you could put all your money into something like Blue Apron or Carvana that's down 90% from their all-time high, and 90% of your money would go away. Versus if you have it in a index fund that's a basket of stocks, I mean, for your S&P 500 fund to go to zero, that means the top 500 companies in America are gone, and there's not any other publicly traded top 500 companies in America, and those are all gone. So index funds are really what I think it's Warren Buffett that says like 99% of people investing in the stock market should invest in index funds because they're tracking and an S&P 500 index fund is what he says, because it's tracking the top 500 companies in America, and you're not having to do any work. I'm not having to do work. If I put my money there, it just tracks those stocks, and you own bits and pieces of every single one. So long-term trends, that's averaging around a 7 to 8% a year return. And that puts you in a lot better spot versus, okay, I want to go all in on Tesla or all in on Carvana or whatever it might be and get a 100x overnight or over the next couple of years. And that could also go to zero at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what, frankly, I think is the best route. I agree with Warren Buffett. He knows a lot more than I do.
Right.
He's a lot older, has a lot more experience, but the S&P 500 returns on average 7% accounting for inflation. And that allows you to build wealth long-term and not feel like it's gambling. Because like I said, if the S&P 500 goes to zero, then the U.S. economy is gone.
Right.
And that would not be a good spot for anyone in this world. So that's the best route to invest, in my opinion. You can go the individual stock route, but to your point, more like gambling, because you don't know if Apple is going to be here in 10 years. You don't know if Apple is going to be here in 50 years. They probably will, frankly, because they're the largest company in the world, but 20 companies in 2000, most of those are not in the top 20 anymore today. So they fluctuate. Companies have their track record, and they can scale and shoot up, and then at the same time, they can kind of die and fade out over time as well. So
okay. Yeah, I mean, that's really helpful because I was thinking about just putting a ton of money into a CD, and I was like, that seems like a really bad idea. So I feel like this is a really good alternative to that.
Yeah, I mean, CDs can be good too. I mean, right now CD rates you can get 5%, I think, on CDs. So it is a very low risk investment. Index funds, I mean, the time horizon, if you don't want to touch money for over 5 years, then I think index funds are a better route to be because they are going to outperform CDs in the long term. They should. But if you're like, okay, I want to save this money to buy a house or buy a car in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it might be, then I wouldn't say, oh, throw that all in the index funds, because at that point, index funds should return a positive return over the course of 5 years or longer. But within that 5 years, we could have a dip in the market. Like last year, the market was down 20%. This year, it's up 12%, I think, year to date. And at the time of this recording, it's like, you never know. You don't want to time the market if you're trying to use that money in the next few years. But hey, you're not going to use it for the next 5 years. And I think going in index funds is a better alternative than CDs. So yeah, definitely something to look at. Ramit Sethi, he's a personal finance guy on YouTube, has a podcast, and he has a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he has a great just chapters on how to invest in index funds, what type of index funds, between growth index funds, international, S&P 500, and can really give you a lot of context into what index funds are, how to invest in them, and kind of the best route to go there. That's I think definitely a good route to go instead of, hey, crypto. I mean, I've bought in crypto before. I've lost money in crypto. I've made money in crypto. I've made money in single stocks. I've lost money in single stocks. But currently my plan is any new investments I have are going into index funds, because I know I'm not going to sit here and beat Wall Street when I'm trading stocks very irregularly. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be able to beat the stock market or beat an index fund when I don't know and spend 100% of my time on that. So it's a better route for me, and better route for my family's future, and better route for majority of people's financial futures. So
yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, that makes perfect sense, because that's exactly the reason I haven't been doing anything with stocks, because it's just way too unpredictable.
Sorry, there's a giant bug flying out my window right now on the inside, and I don't know where it came from.
Probably trying to escape those Canadian wildfires.
Let's talk about your budgeting process. How do you currently manage your budget? Do you do it on a monthly basis? And who taught you about budgeting?
I mean, really, I've been pretty much self-taught as far as budgeting is concerned. But yeah, I've been kind of evaluating things on a month-to-month basis. I feel like it does fluctuate quite a bit as a freelancer. So it's like 1 month I might make a really decent amount of money, but then the next month could be entirely different story. So I try and account for that, where I'm like, if I know I had a really good month, I'm like, okay, like, this is nice that you had that, and you can reward yourself a little bit, but like, don't go too crazy, because you don't know what will happen in the next 4 weeks. So yeah, so I feel like I've tried to just evaluate things that way and just kind of look at my statements on a month-to-month basis.
Use any tools or budgeting apps for just recording that or making your transactions, like auto categorize them?
I mean, I probably should. I haven't used a budgeting app now.
Definitely check them out. Mint is one that I use. It's free, mint.com.
Okay.
I think it's a pretty great app to use. It's a very basic, and it allows you to it categorizes stuff automatically. You can change categories if it's incorrect. but it's one that I find just easy to use and allows me to see stuff in real time. When a transaction processes, it automatically adds it to that category. And I say, oh, I spent $500 on food this month, or I spent $200 on shopping. Maybe I should stop spending for the rest of this month, or whatever it might be. Or, hey, I need to start budgeting out what I'm going to spend on traveling in a few months. So I think it's definitely a good route to go. And there's other ones like Copilot and Every Dollar and some other ones. I think those have more paid features. I don't think you have the full capabilities in a free version like Mint does. So I think it's a good route to go. So
Okay.
when kind of as you got out of college, or I guess you went to college and then got out of college, lived in New York, did you ever take on like student loan debt or any debt throughout that, or have you always been debt free?
Yeah, I mean, I always have been debt free. I bartended all through college, my undergrad, did a master's in communications actually. And yeah, I mean, through the whole thing, I just bartended like crazy, made decent money, and I made sure not to have any student loans. And kind of actually a funny topic because everyone's like, oh, don't you want to become an attorney? And I'm like, actually, no, because I really don't want debt. So I feel like I'd rather do what I'm doing and not take on debt, though obviously for some people they view it differently. You can obviously make substantially more money as an attorney and potentially pay off the debt, but that's just not a route I decided to go, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to preference on that. If you want to stay away from debt, then it's definitely a route to go. You're obviously still making good money being a paralegal in New York City, so it doesn't stop you from making good money there. But yeah, a lot of people do go the route of taking on debt for law school if they can't afford it or can't get enough scholarships to pay for it. So
yeah,
it's glad that you made that decision and were like intentional about it. Hey, I don't want to do this, and you found your own way and based making money and scaling your income quickly. So
yeah.
what are some financial mistakes that you've made in the past?
I would say financial mistakes I've made, maybe, I'm trying to think like some major ones I've made throughout the years. I think like not accounting for like long-term losses when I was younger in my 20s. I feel like I would get an apartment and then assume that a job was kind of forever. And then it was just like, oh my God, that job is no longer here. And then I'd be stuck with this expensive living situation. So I think, but that's something I kind of cleared up in my 20s. I lived with roommates and stuff and did that. But yeah, other than that, I think at certain points I probably spent too much on restaurants. That's something I've also learned.
There's a lot of good food in New York, so
There is a lot of good food in New York, but I've made it kind of a point to be like, hey, if I'm going to be social, like you don't always have to go to a restaurant. You could meet friends for coffee or have people over or do something like that. So
makes sense. That's food and travel are my two biggest line items of my budget because I love food and I love to travel, and definitely when I go places I want to try new food. And New York, I've been there a few times and definitely spend too much money on food when I'm in New York. So
yeah, it's easy to do. So
I'm curious to hear your answer on this, but have you ever made a risky investment and how did that turn out?
yeah, I have made risky investments. I'd say definitely in crypto. I probably put way too much money in at one point and was just like, oh, this is just going to keep going up. And then it didn't. And it was just like shocking. And it kind of made me rethink things. It was like one of those moments where you're like, damn, I wish I didn't do that. But
how much money did you put into crypto?
That I lost, I think I probably lost at least 10K on crypto minimum. But for me, a frugal person, that was like mind blowing. I was like, oh my God, how do you lose that much money in crypto?
So you put 15K in, it's worth about $5,000 now?
Yeah.
Did it ever go up at one point, or when you bought in, did it start just going down? You buy the top?
I didn't. No, I bought it on at that time. What was a dip, but like obviously crypto kept dipping. So it was just like the never-ending loss. Basically, I thought I came in at a good time, but apparently not. I mean, at least a lot. Some of it was Ethereum, which has been slightly up at times, but yeah, the rest of it is kind of gone.
I mean, I think a lot of people, they like invest in crypto. They want that 100x. I bought crypto before too, and it's like, I don't think it's the best thing to do. One, it's definitely not good to do if you're in debt. And two, it needs to be a small portion of your income if you want to play around in the crypto world. So it can fluctuate up and down and left and right. So
certainly can.
Any money that I have in there, I can expect it to go to zero. And let's talk about your childhood a little bit. Obviously, you grew up in a middle-class family, and then you kind of had to end up transitioning to a more of a living in poverty when you're living with your mom after your parents got divorced. How did that feel? Like, what lessons did you take from that? And like, what advice would you give to someone going through that same situation right now?
I think like a really kind of interesting lesson that I learned through that I just tapped into like a year and a half ago is that sports was always something I kind of turned to. It was like this free, fun social interaction that kind of took my mind off, my living situation, I guess, because I really didn't want to come home to this teeny tiny falling apart apartment sharing a room with my brother. So yeah, I think like, sports was kind of my meditation, my kind of, I don't know, a place where I found like peace. And so I started to tap back into that about a year and a half ago. I was always working out, but I hadn't like actually played sports in a really long time. And I was like, oh, actually tennis is great. This is like a really good feeling. And it actually brings me a lot of joy. So I think just learning about like free fun was a big part of that. And also realizing that like material things might not be, they're super nice to have, but like, I don't care about them.
Makes sense. I think it's a great outlet for anyone. No matter what your age is, what your financial situation is, I think it's always just good to have that kind of competitive side to you. And also it surrounds you with other people and put you in some free fun events and activities.
Yeah.
I think it's just always a great outlet to have. I grew up playing sports and I still try to play sports now, even after being an adult. So I think it's a great thing just for anyone to meet friends, meet new people, and just get energy out and also stay physically fit. So
yeah. Exactly. It kind of saves money even on gym memberships and stuff like that. Not bad.
Well, let's talk about your freelancing now. What's the goals for the rest of the year? For acquiring new clients and growing that business.
Yeah. So right now I'm at 2 steady clients, and actually I really love working with both of them. But yeah, it's just not that many hours. It's kind of nice because it gives me a ton of free time to do other things. But I think ideally I would like to have 3 or 4 clients under my belt. So yeah, I'm like I'd say like halfway to my goal right now. So yeah, if I can grow it to that by the end of the year, I'd be really happy about that.
Awesome. And what steps are you doing to kind of acquire and find new clients?
Well, these 2 clients I actually found word of mouth. So I feel like I've been trying to put myself out there more, like just letting people know like, hey, I'm a freelancer, and like reaching out to old friends and letting them know like, hey, I provide legal services. Like if you need help, let me know. So yeah, that's kind of been the route I've been taking, because it seems to be, I've tried online as well, but it doesn't seem to be as effective. So
yeah, there's different freelancing websites out there that definitely can try, but definitely word of mouth and people in person can definitely be a better route to go off the bat. Especially you're in New York City, so there's plenty of businesses, plenty of people out there, and plenty of opportunity for you. So you're in a good city for it. What's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a really good question. Best piece of financial advice I've ever received. I guess like it's not really financial, but just that like life is short. So like, I think that kind of ties into finances in some way. Like you should work hard for money and like definitely do what you can with it. But like also know that like you shouldn't just hold on to money forever and like never spend it. Like at a certain point, it's like, it's your life, it's your money. So if you're making it, it's okay to have a little bit of fun with it here and there.
Yeah, I agree. Life is short, and you never know what can happen in your life to change your current circumstances, and have to figure out ways to enjoy the present while also not destroying your future financial self too. So as long as you're living below your means and you're still putting away the money, it should spend on things you do enjoy and building the life that you want. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess last question, and then we're wrapping it up here. What's the biggest lesson you learned from this experience with me today?
I definitely say learning about like stocks. That's super helpful. I think that's something I'm definitely going to look into. And then also just knowing that I can actually automate my finances is super helpful. I wish that's something I had known earlier, because I feel like it is actually as a freelancer, like very overwhelming to try and guess like, wait, how much money did I spend on that? Was that an actual expense? Was it not? So I think that will help me a lot.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you have 2 takeaways from this, and definitely look into index funds and how to invest in those. You can set up on Vanguard. You can set up on, there's other like robo-advisors that you can use as well, but it's really easy to set up and do it on Vanguard, platforms like that. And definitely a budgeting app that will automate that for you, automate your savings, automate your budgeting categories, and just give you a better overview of your finances on a snapshot basis versus having to do that once a month and not knowing where you were the last 30 days. So
right.
Well, Anna, really, really appreciate your time today. It was great chatting with you. You're definitely well on your way to building a financial future. You have good savings right now and have a little bit of investments. And I think as you kind of continue to build your income up with this freelance stuff, just continue to figure out, okay, let's start thinking about the future too and investing some of that money to start building your financial future up for success, but not being in debt and having a good income and making that leap to being a freelancer. You're in a good spot, and I'm excited to see where you go from here. So
thank you. Thank you so much for all the advice.
Thank you, Anna, for joining today.
All right. Have a good one.
What's up, everybody? We just finished up with Anna from New York City. She's in a good financial spot right now. She's got about $50,000 in liquid savings, and she's got $15K in investment accounts. She has no debt, which is a great spot to be in. Live in New York City. It's not a cheap place to live, and she has cheap accommodations where she's living right now, which is phenomenal to hear. She just went out on her own, becoming a freelancer, and she is saved up for that to make sure that she could pay her rent. And she's in a spot with her clients right now where she is still able to save $700 a month. So overall, she's in a good financial spot. I do think that she needs to start thinking about investing, thinking about how to invest in index funds safely and not be doing single stocks. Or I think her learning more about index funds will be a great next step for her to start automating her finances and automating her investments. But overall, she's in a great spot. Has made good money in her past and knows how to make it, and just needs to continue to find new clients, and she'll be in a great spot. So thank y'all for watching. If you want to be on Money Interview, then reach out to me. Email me at the email in the description, and I'd love to have you on, whether it's facing a financial challenge, whether it's paying off debt, whether it's an upcoming purchase that you don't know what to do. Shoot me an email. Let's have a conversation. I want you to learn. I want everyone watching this to learn, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.